My first name is Reeves, R-I-V-E-S. My last name is Hiles, H-I-L-E-S.
Good morning, Mr. Hiles. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Doing well. Can you tell the jury where you work?
So I am currently employed as a Chief Senior Assistant DA at the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and I am currently assigned to the gang unit.
Can you give the jury a brief overview of when you came to work for the DA's office?
Yes, so I started working at the DA's office in August of 2017, and then in November of 2018, I was moved to the gang unit. I have more or less been in the gang unit since then, outside of an 8-month window where I was assigned to some special projects and some courtroom coverage in the domestic violence unit.
And briefly, what do you do currently in the gang unit?
I'm assigned 4 different courtrooms, and so I handle the gang cases that are randomly assigned to those particular courtrooms after indictment. But I also work closely with the local law enforcement agencies to maintain current knowledge on criminal street gangs that we prosecute. I assist with investigations, reviewing social media records, reviewing phone extractions, really both participating in the investigation and also making prosecutorial decisions whether or not to proceed with certain cases.
You had mentioned social media. Can you tell the jury what experience you've had working with social media records?
Yes. So, especially ever since I got to the gang unit, the social media has been an invaluable tool, especially when it comes to gang prosecution, as far as evidentiary value, because of both the
I'm going to object to what's an invaluable tool.
Sustained.
Okay.
Can you describe for the jury what experience you have reviewing social media records?
So my experience is oftentimes social media records are obtained as part of the investigation, and these records are oftentimes voluminous, and so I would navigate through all of the media that is obtained in those social media returns, and it's kept in a very different order than it would be displayed to a user interface for the social media platforms, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, or any of the others.
And specifically with reviewing social media records, in your experience, have you ever had to request additional social media records once you have been reviewing a case or working on a case, after law enforcement gave it to the DA's office?
Yes, so it's very common for our office to request additional information. Oftentimes, the Instagram original returns are a very small window around the dates of a crime. And when we review those Instagram records, oftentimes we find evidence of other crimes or patterns of crimes, and so we expand.
Sustained.
Yes, Your Honor. I was not. So, Mr. Hiles, can you tell the jury?
It's very common to find probable cause to get.
All right, that's irrelevant, frankly.
Your Honor,
let's get to the point.
Yes, Your Honor. I was not trying to elicit that.
I know you weren't.
Yes,
but
Your Honor. Mr. Hiles, can you describe for the jury? I want to talk specifically about Instagram. Do you have familiarity with Instagram?
Yes.
And ballpark, how many Instagram records have you reviewed in your time working in the district attorney's office on any type of case?
I would say over, 300 returns plus. It's hard to put a ballpark on it, but it's very common.
Now, in general, and did I cut you off?
No.
In general, in case there's any jurors who may not know, can you describe in general Instagram and what kind of applications are on it for users of that social media? Just a brief overview of Instagram itself.
Okay. So Instagram is obviously a social media app. You can post pictures. You can direct message for communications. You can post different stories. So everything that's posted on Instagram is kept by, I guess now it would be Meta, the parent company, and is digitally stored. And it will be stored until it is either deleted or if it is set to expire. Some of the stories that are posted on Instagram are only visible for about a 24-hour period. And if those stories expire before the records are obtained, then that data is not kept.
And you had mentioned Meta. Is that what used to be called Facebook?
Yes.
And when you request record, can you describe for the jury what's the process to get records from Instagram?
Sure. So in order to get the records from Instagram, there is a law enforcement portal for which law enforcement can request a preservation of an account. So that means that any data that is currently active or posted on that account will be preserved by the parent company Meta, and even if it is deleted off of the page of that user, if there is a preservation request in place, that data will be kept. It might not be present on the user's interface if it's deleted for others to see, but the company keeps it. And so a preservation request lasts for 90 days. So anything that was posted during that preservation request or posted before so that had not been deleted will be preserved by Meta at that time. And you have a 90-day window at that point that everything's preserved, and you have the option to extend it one time for an additional 90 days. Now, after a preservation request has been made, then a law enforcement officer would have to craft a search warrant outlining the probable cause needed to get that information, and they would have to specifically request the types of files and information that they would like to receive. Meta is only going to respond to what is requested for. So if you leave out that you want messages, direct messages between certain parties, then if that's not in the search warrant, then it won't be provided over. So you have to detail every piece of information that you would like.
Now, I want to unpack something. If you're working a case, you request Instagram records of John Doe. Is John Doe going to know that a preservation request was put on their Instagram account?
They will not.
And if records get sent, will they know that law enforcement has obtained their records?
Objection, Your Honor, caution speculation.
Overruled.
So it depends. And the reason it depends is that you have, if there is a sealing order, so there's a packet that has to be reviewed and signed by the judge. So if a sealing order is included with that request and the judge reviews and signs the sealing order, or a non-disclosure order, that means that Meta or Facebook, Instagram, those will not notify. However, if that is not included, you will get a notification from Meta that those records are going to be turned over and the party will be notified.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a couple questions about Instagram itself. So how does Instagram retain records? Is it by your name, your email, your address? How are those records kept?
I think it might be easier to explain if you have the records.
That sounds like a perfect idea. So now that we can see it a lot better, thank you, Mr. Hiles, can you describe what that target number indicates in Instagram records?
Sure. So if you see up top, it says service, which is because there's multiple companies underneath the Facebook. At this time, it was owned by Facebook. Instagram is the social media service that was requested. The target number right there, that is the specific account number that was associated with a vanity name or user ID. And the account number is going to be the account number assigned to that particular user. So when an Instagram account is created, Instagram automatically assigns a specific number to that account. And that number never changes, no matter how many times the username or vanity name may be changed. So that way, everything underneath a particular account is saved.
And Mr. Hiles, do you see a old school wooden pointer near your feet up there? If you can keep that handy, we may use it momentarily. So going down this date range, what does that indicate in Instagram records?
So the 7/2/2019, that's the date that Instagram actually generated these documents that were reported. So generated, that's the date essentially that they made these records and then provided them sometimes after they had been sought. And you can see the exact time, which would have been 11:19 and 40 seconds, and that is UTC, which is Uniform Time Coordinated or Universal Coordinated Time, which is essentially the ground zero of world time. It's sometimes referred to as Greenwich Mean Time, because it's on the Greenwich Meridian, which is in London, which is where world banks all keep the zero time. So it never changes. If we are in Eastern Standard Time, then Eastern Standard Time is going to be 5 hours behind. If we're in Eastern Daylight Time, it's going to be 4 hours behind.
So with the time, if we were in February of 2019, would it be 5 hours or 4 hours?
In February, it would be 5 hours behind because February you're in daylight, or you're in Eastern Standard Time.
What is this, when you have name and the name provided? So is this, can you explain for the jury what this is, and is this verified by Instagram, or what can the name reflect?
So it might be easier if I explain vanity name first. If
Okay.
you could scroll down to vanity name.
Let's scroll down to the vanity name. So the vanity name for this account, what is the vanity name for this account?
Okay, so vanity name is going to be Time Business Rod. What the vanity name is, that is the larger name that appears on the front of the user face of the Instagram profile. So that would also be known as, in Instagram, it would say their @ If you were trying to tag them in an account, it would be @SlimeBusinessRod. Now, also the way Instagram is set up, when it has name, so if you scroll back to where the name was,
Yes.
so right here, it says Cleveland Ave. So that is what would appear below the profile picture. The way I could describe it is if I was looking at Instagram this morning myself. I happened to be looking at the Barstool Sports page, and the president of Barstool Sports is Dave Portnoy. His vanity name is Stool Presidente, which you see above his picture, the big letters of his account. Just below his picture on that on the app, it's going to say Dave Portnoy.
And for this case, when you reviewed it, who was associated with the vanity name Slime Business Rod?
Slime Business Rod, the account associated with that would have been the account belonging to Rodelius Riot.